A poor man brought his wife lunch at her office, an act of pure love he believed would brighten her day. But the moment Mark stepped through those polished glass doors, he discovered the worst betrayal ever, a betrayal so brutal it shattered everything he thought he knew about marriage, loyalty, and the woman he adored. He stood there frozen with a lunchbox still warm in his trembling hands, watching the life he built crumble right before his eyes. But what he did next will make you speechless. Who was his wife becoming? And what hidden truth was waiting for Mark on the other side of heartbreak? The sun had risen gently that morning, brushing light across the tiny rented room Mark shared with Sylvia, a room that had once held laughter, whispered dreams, and the kind of warmth two young lovers believed could survive anything. But today, as Mark's eyes opened, he felt the coldness long before he saw the empty side of the bed. Sylvia's pillow lay untouched, smooth, her perfume fading in the air like a memory slipping away. She had left early again, without a kiss, without a word, without the soft smile she once gave him, just for waking up beside her. Mark sat up slowly, rubbing his tired eyes. Life had never been easy for him, born in hardship, raised by struggle, strengthened by faith, but he had learned to walk through life with gratitude. He had a job, he had a roof, and he had Sylvia, or at least he believed he still had her. These days she left before dawn, returned late, and spoke to him like every word cost her something. He kept telling himself it was stress from her new job at Rach Global, but doubt had begun to whisper louder than hope. Still, Mark loved her with a loyalty that refused to die. Love is patient, they said. Love forgives, they said. Nobody had told him that love could crack open a man's chest and leave him bleeding silently. Nobody had warned him that the heart can break long before the betrayal is visible. He stood and went to the little kitchen, just a stove, 2 plates, and a noisy fridge. But today he wanted to bring back a little piece of their old joy. He cooked Sylvia's favorite food with a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Jollof rice, grilled chicken, a touch of spice the way she liked. He hummed as he stirred the pot, remembering her laughter from years ago, the way she held his hands at the altar, promising him forever. Back then, they were 2 dreamers in borrowed clothes, but their joy had been real. He glanced at the wedding photo on the wall, their smiles wide, their eyes bright, their hands tightly clasped. One day, he whispered to the picture, "I'll give you everything you dreamed of, Sylvia. Just hold on a little longer." When the meal was ready, Mark packed it neatly into a lunchbox and held it proudly. This small act felt like giving a piece of his heart. Maybe today she would smile again. Maybe today the distance between them would shrink. He stepped outside into the warm afternoon sun, holding the lunchbox carefully like something fragile. He boarded the bus, nervous but hopeful. The Rach Global building rose before him, glittering glass, towering ambition, people dressed in wealth and confidence. He adjusted his clean but worn shirt and smiled shyly at his reflection in the glass door. He was not rich, he knew that, but he was proud of who he was. Inside the building, everything smelled of expensive perfume, success, and polished dreams. Mark felt small, but he lifted his chin. "I'm here to see my wife, Mrs. Sylvia Daniels," he told the guard, "assistant manager, marketing department." The guard gave him a long look as though poverty looked strange in a rich place, but he pointed him toward the elevator. Mark stepped in, watching himself in the mirrored walls, rough hands, old shoes, and a heart that still believed in love. When the elevator opened on the 4th floor, he stepped into a quiet hallway, filled with clicking keyboards and murmured phone calls. He walked until he found her door, Sylvia Daniels, assistant manager, marketing department. His heart warmed. "That's my wife," he whispered. He heard laughter inside, her laughter. It had been weeks since he last heard it. Smiling, he pushed the door open gently, wanting to surprise her. But instead, the surprise shattered him. Sylvia stood wrapped in the arms of a tall man in a black suit. His hand rested around her waist. Her smile, once the sun of Mark's world, was glowing up at another man, and before Mark could breathe, Raymond leaned down and kissed her. The lunchbox slipped from Mark's hands and crashed to the floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Sylvia froze. Raymond jolted back but smirked. Mark's voice trembled. "Sylvia, I brought you lunch." She didn't look ashamed. She looked annoyed, embarrassed by him. "You shouldn't be here, Mark," she snapped. "You're embarrassing me in front of my boss." Mark blinked, shattered. "Embarrassing you? I only came to see you smile." But her eyes were cold, unrecognizable. And in that moment, Mark felt something inside him fall apart, the first crack of a heartbreak he never saw coming. Yet he had no idea. This betrayal was only the beginning. The hallway outside Sylvia's office blurred as Mark walked away, each step heavier than the last. Shame sat on his shoulders like a weight too heavy to carry. People whispered, soft enough to pretend they weren't talking, loud enough for him to hear every word slicing into his chest. "That's her husband, the mechanic." She said he was holding her back. "Imagine your wife choosing her boss instead." Mark didn't look at them. His eyes burned, but he refused to cry here. Not in this place where everything sparkled except human hearts. When he finally stepped outside, sunlight hit his face, but it didn't warm him. Nothing felt warm anymore. He didn't even remember his walk home. His feet moved because they had to, not because he knew where he was going. By the time he reached the small room he once called home, the world felt unbearably quiet. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. The lunchbox still lying open in his mind. The rice, the chicken, the love. Wasted. Hours passed before he realized evening had come. When the door finally opened at almost 11 p.m., Sylvia walked in with the cold self-assurance of someone who felt she had already traded up. She didn't greet him, didn't look sorry, didn't even pretend. Mark breathed deeply. "You didn't come home early." "I had to work late," she said flatly, removing her shoes. "What's your problem now?" His problem. She called his pain a problem. "You know what my problem is," Mark said quietly, trying to steady his voice. Sylvia rolled her eyes. "If this is about what happened today, I don't want to talk about it. Raymond was just being friendly." Mark stared at her, unable to believe she could twist reality so easily. "Friendly? Sylvia, he kissed you in his office." She folded her arms, coldness settling into her like a permanent part of her. "You embarrassed me, Mark. Do you know how small I looked when you barged in with that lunchbox?" The room froze. Mark's heart cracked again. "You're embarrassed? By me bringing you food? Your favorite food? You don't get it," she snapped. "You think life is about cooking rice and smiling. Wake up, Mark. Love doesn't pay bills." His voice dropped to a painful whisper. "So money is what matters to you now?" Her reply was immediate. "Yes, I want a better life. I'm tired of poverty. I'm tired of patching clothes, counting coins, sharing one plate when other women are living better. I deserve more." Mark swallowed hard, trying to keep steady. "And you think cheating will give you that more?" "Don't call it cheating," she fired back. "I'm doing what I have to do. You're a mechanic, Mark, a poor mechanic. Be grateful I even stayed this long." The words sank deep, heavy, humiliating, unforgettable. "So that's what I am to you now," he murmured, voice cracking. "A man you pity." Sylvia looked away. "I'm just being honest." Mark nodded slowly, heartbreak settling quietly into his bones. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I don't understand your world. But I never thought the woman I married could talk to me like this." Sylvia said nothing. And silence, Mark learned that night, could hurt worse than shouting. He lay awake long after she fell asleep, staring at the ceiling, whispering prayers he wasn't sure God heard. He wasn't praying for money. He wasn't praying for success. He was praying for strength, not to break under the weight of a woman he still loved. The next morning she left early without a word. Again, Mark forced himself through the day at the workshop. The familiar smell of engine oil and metal felt comforting, like a world that didn't judge him. But even here, he was drowning. His hands shook when customers spoke. His thoughts drifted to Sylvia's cold eyes, Raymond's smirk, the lunchbox on the floor. By afternoon, Mr. Samuel, the workshop owner, noticed. "Mark," he said gently, "you look tired. Go home and rest." Mark swallowed. "Work helps me forget, sir." But the truth was, nothing could make him forget. Later that evening, walking home, he spotted a wallet by the roadside, a fine black leather wallet. When he opened it, stacks of crisp US dollars stared back at him. Enough money to change everything. Enough to buy comfort, respect, maybe even Sylvia's love again. But as the temptation pressed into him, another voice rose. Quiet, steady, familiar. If you take what isn't yours, you lose yourself. Mark closed the wallet with a trembling hand. "No," he whispered to himself. "I won't start stealing because I'm hurting." He kept the wallet to return it the next day. When he reached home, Sylvia glanced up, only because she heard the door. "You're late," she said coldly. "I found a wallet today," he said. "It had a lot of dollars inside. I'll return it to the owner tomorrow." Her eyes widened. "Return it? Why? Bring it here. Let me see. Let's use the money before he finds it." Mark stiffened. "It's not our money, Sylvia," she hissed. "You're a fool. You'll die poor with all your honesty." The words triggered something deep inside Mark, something that had been breaking slowly. "I may die poor," he said softly, "but I will die honest. That's something money can't buy." Sylvia scoffed, disgusted. "Sometimes I wonder what I ever saw in you." Mark looked at her with a pain so heavy it almost broke him. "Maybe you saw love, but now your heart only sees money." The silence that followed felt like the quiet before a storm, the kind of storm that destroys everything before revealing hidden truths. And Mark had no idea. His storm was just beginning. Mark barely slept that night. Every breath felt heavy, every heartbeat a reminder of a love dissolving in front of him. The room that once held warmth now felt painfully hollow, like a place waiting to forget he ever lived in it. Sylvia had turned her back to him all night, sleeping comfortably while his chest clenched with hurt. The world was silent, yet his mind was loud, filled with questions he didn't have answers to. Morning came slowly, sunlight creeping through the curtains like it was afraid to disturb the quiet brokenness inside the room. Sylvia left early again, without a word, without a glance, without the slightest hint that she knew she had cut through him like a knife. Mark stood at the door long after she left, wondering how two hearts that once beat together could drift so far apart. He whispered to himself, "God, please don't let bitterness grow in me. Help me keep my heart clean." That prayer would echo in his future. After work that day, Mark took the wallet to Westfield Holdings, its tall golden building shining like a promise. He held the wallet tightly, unaware he was carrying the key to a future he never imagined. Security led him up to Mr. Anthony Blake's office. When the director opened the wallet and saw the untouched dollars, he stared at Mark with disbelief, as though he couldn't understand how a poor man could resist temptation so strong. "You could have kept this," Mr. Blake said softly. "Why didn't you?" Mark lowered his eyes. "Because it's not mine, sir. I can't eat the bread that belongs to another man." Mr. Blake smiled, a slow, approving smile. The world needs more men like you. Mark didn't know it yet, but this moment became the first stitch in the tapestry of his future, a future that would unravel far beyond his imagination. When he returned home that evening and told Sylvia what happened, she didn't see honor. She saw loss. "You returned the wallet. You returned dollars," she erupted. "You're truly a blind fool. That money was our escape." Mark remained calm, though her words cut deep. "Escape built on theft will collapse, Sylvia. I want blessings that last." She scoffed, disgusted. "Blessings? Blessings don't buy cars or houses. I'm tired, Mark. Tired of praying, tired of hoping, tired of poverty." He looked into her eyes, searching for the woman he married, but all he saw was cold ambition. "And I'm tired of watching greed swallow you," he whispered. Her anger flared. "You know what? Maybe we shouldn't be together. Maybe I should find a man who can actually give me a real life." Mark felt something inside him shift. Not break, shift. Like something loosening that had been straining too long. "If that's what you want," he said softly, unable to finish the sentence. 2 days later, Mr. Blake called him again. Mark went to his office unsure of what to expect, but certainly not a promotion, a salary far above anything he had ever touched, and a promise of more growth to come. "Honesty deserves reward," Mr. Blake said warmly. "From today, you'll handle all maintenance for my logistics company." Mark left the office with tears blurring his sight. For the first time in years, something beautiful had finally entered his life. But when he returned home with that joy in his voice, ready to celebrate with his wife, Sylvia reacted like someone slapped with disappointment. 600,000 naira? That's what you're celebrating?" she scoffed. "My wigs cost more than that." Mark stared at her in disbelief. "Sylvia, this is a miracle." "A miracle for poor people," she shot back. "Go tell your church people I deserve more than 600K. A real man would have demanded a higher salary." Mark had no reply. If joy became mockery in her hands, what was left for him to say? She refused to celebrate with him, refused to smile, refused even to acknowledge the leap God had placed before him. And then everything collapsed. He returned home the next day to find the room unnaturally quiet. Too quiet. Her clothes were gone, her shoes gone, her perfumes gone, her presents gone. On the table was a white envelope, his name written in her handwriting. He opened it with trembling hands. "Mark, I'm leaving you forever. I can't continue living like this. You are not the kind of man I want. Don't call me. Don't look for me. I've found someone better, someone who can give me the life I deserve. Goodbye. Sylvia." The words blurred as tears filled Mark's eyes. He collapsed onto the floor, holding the letter against his chest as pain crushed him from the inside out. "How could you do this to me?" he whispered into the empty room. "I loved you. I gave you everything I had. Why wasn't it enough?" He tried calling her. No answer. He tried calling her mother, hoping for mercy. None came. "She is where she wants to be," her mother said coldly. "Expect your bride price next week. I told her never to marry a poor man." The line went dead. Mark held the phone against his forehead, shaking, unable to breathe. Every dream he ever had smashed. Every plan for the future gone. Every promise made at the altar broken. He didn't eat that night. He didn't move. He only cried until morning found him sitting where heartbreak left him. Yet even in that darkness, a thread of foreshadowed light was silently weaving its way toward him. Because when life ends a chapter with cruelty, God always has a way of beginning the next with grace. Mark dragged himself through the days that followed, moving like a man whose heart had been carved out of his chest. Work became the only thing anchoring him to reality. Grease on his palms felt easier to handle than the emptiness in his chest. Engines made more sense than people. Machines did not betray you. Machines did not leave for richer men. Machines did not write goodbye letters. When Angela, the receptionist, found him crying alone in the small staff room, it was as though the universe refused to let him drown in silence. Her gentle voice wrapped around his grief like a warm blanket, giving him something to hold on to when Sylvia's abandonment had stripped him bare. She sat with him, not as a woman searching for romance, but as a human seeing another human breaking. By the time she accompanied him home that evening, bringing peace into his battered soul, Mark felt the first fragile spark of hope in weeks. Not love, not healing, just the quiet awareness that maybe he wasn't completely alone in the world after all. The next few weeks unfolded like a quiet miracle. Mark's honesty became the foundation of his rise at Westfield Logistics. His humility, consistency, and gentle discipline impressed everyone, from drivers to supervisors. Mr. Blake admired him more each day. When the promotion came, followed by keys to a new apartment and a car, Mark felt like God had whispered his own apology directly into his heart. And yet, Sylvia never knew. Angela moved into the new apartment a few days later, only temporarily, she insisted. For safety, for peace of mind, for friendship. But the energy in the home shifted the moment she walked in. She cooked, she laughed, she prayed, she listened, and most importantly, she respected him. She treated him like a man whose heart was worthy of care, not contempt. Still, when Sylvia called unexpectedly, her number flashing across his screen like a ghost, clawing at his past, Mark's heart jolted, not because he wanted her back, but because betrayal has a way of leaving scars that ache when touched. Her voice trembled through the phone. "Mark, I'm sorry, I miss you." But Mark had grown, he had healed, he had risen. "You left me like I was nothing," he replied calmly, "but I found myself again. I've moved on, Sylvia." And when he said it, he meant it. Angela walked out of the kitchen then, concern on her face. Mark looked at her, the woman who had held his hand through grief, the woman whose presence calmed him more than any words could. And for the first time, he saw clearly what God had been doing. Some losses feel like punishment, but some losses are protection. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and slowly but surely, love found him again. Not fragile love built on need or greed, but steady love built on kindness and character. Angela became the sunrise after a long storm. When Mark knelt one evening, holding out a ring with trembling fingers, he whispered the words he had once been too afraid to believe he deserved. "Angela, will you marry me?" Her shocked tears, her trembling yes, her warm embrace, it all felt like the universe was stitching his heart back together in golden thread. And then the final surprise came. Angela led him into a beautiful mansion. Mark froze. Standing there, smiling warmly, was Mr. Anthony Blake. "Good afternoon, son," he laughed. "You've been in my company all this time and never knew Angela was my daughter." Mark nearly fell to his knees. "Sir, if I had known—" Mr. Blake embraced him like a father. "Mark, God sets the honest on high. You were tested, and you passed. You're already family." The wedding was beautiful. Simple yet elegant. A celebration of second chances, of divine timing, of love restored. People whispered blessings over them, and Mark felt peace settle into his bones like warm light. Angela became pregnant soon after. Twins, 2 boys. Mark's joy doubled, like God was saying, "I saw your tears. I counted them. Now watch what I can do." One sunny afternoon, Mark stepped out of the supermarket holding baby, supplies and snacks for Angela. His car gleamed in the parking lot. His clothes were neat and tailored. His life now spoke a language of grace, not pain. That was when he saw her. Sylvia, sitting on the pavement, heavily pregnant, hair disheveled, clothes worn, eyes empty. She looked up and froze. She barely recognized the man standing before her. Gone was the poor mechanic who once worshipped the ground she walked on. Before her stood a handsome, successful man, glowing with quiet confidence and gentle dignity. "Mark," she whispered, voice breaking, "please don't go. I've lost everything. Raymond left me. I'm alone. I'm suffering. Help me. Please." Mark felt a hum in his chest. Not anger, not joy, just closure. He removed his wallet and handed her some money. "For the baby," he said gently, "not for you." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "That should have been me beside you. That should have been my life. Why didn't I wait? Why did I throw you away?" Mark exhaled softly. "Because you couldn't see my worth. But Angela did." "Angela," she whispered. "My wife," he said, "and she's pregnant with our twins." Sylvia broke completely. Her regret poured out in sobs that shook her entire body. But Mark only offered a small, kind smile, the kind that comes from someone who has healed so deeply that the past has no power left. "I wish you a safe delivery," he said warmly, "and I pray God gives you peace." He walked away without anger, without resentment, without looking back. And something inside Sylvia finally shattered, not from betrayal, but from the unbearable truth. She didn't lose Mark because he was poor. She lost him because she never deserved the richness of his heart. As he drove home to Angela, to love, to peace, to children, to a future built on faith, Mark whispered a quiet prayer. "Thank you, God. You turned my breaking into blessing." And for the first time in his life, his heart felt whole.